Everyone knows the elephant in the room this week. Palantir makes the list to be added to the S&P 500 index. But still, there's other big news this week showing Palantir continuing to mark their footprint and more. So looking at the stock first, it actually looked pretty tame on the 5-day chart for market hours and actually ended up pretty flat right above $30 for the official close. But after hours on Friday with the S&P announcement, Palantir shot up like a rocket several percentage points due to the excitement and with their inclusion, which I'll cover some interesting points later on in the video. So first, earlier this week, Palantir was brought up in a study showing them having the highest ratio of producing unicorn or billion-dollar founders. Now, the interesting part of this comparison is that we see some very familiar names and companies, but do also want to point out some caveats. This is over a long period of time, as you can see, from 1997 to 2021. So inflation is definitely a factor here when looking at the sheer number of billion-dollar startup valuations and how they got there. But also, you can argue certain companies have been around for longer and also have smaller or bigger headcounts, which as a ratio can play a very big role since they're utilizing current employee count. But regardless, I think there are still, even if not perfect, pointing out the obvious narrative here that Palantir is a quality company over quantity company, where they tend to hire the people who have a certain level of motivation and mission focus, or even if they don't stay at Palantir for long, go on to build and do great things. And with such a rarity of being a unicorn founder, but having one of the highest ratios with these comparisons, I think it's pretty telling. It shows that Palantir is very selective on the kind of folks they want to build alongside, so great job here and in outperforming. Next, we have a great shout out on an older article actually from a month ago, where Palantir wanted to draw some attention to their work out in Ukraine. And this is actually kind of outside of the well known war context and the drones, but still related where they've been working towards keeping their education system up to date with ensuring the kids are still able to get a quality education needed even during the war. Now, the big numbers are getting the 1 million kids still in the loop, where 600,000 children are studying online in Ukraine, with another 400,000 abroad. Now, the goal is to bring back 300,000 Ukrainian kids to the full-time education side, but this has barriers around ensuring their safety, like building shelters, transportation with buses, and getting the right school supplies and gadgets for them. So Palantir has been helping with this effort, and we saw that actually with the demining use case demo a while back, where Palantir is playing a big part around the planning and logistics of how they can actually meet this goal and get up to speed. Honestly, the big part of this is that Palantir is already showing value and playing a vital role in the reconstruction part of Ukraine's recovery, even though they're still in the midst of war. So regardless of the ending of conflict, as long as there's a Ukrainian state standing, Palantir seems to be playing a major role in bringing them back up online, affecting a whole generation of kids out in Ukraine. Then we get some interesting news which coincides around the general market interest of Palantir as a stock. Granite Shares has put together a new leveraged ETF product to mimic the double returns of Palantir. Note though, like other ETFs, this is designed around the daily price action of the stock. So if it goes up, say, 5% in a single day, the ETF should theoretically return 10%. But just as it does on the upside, it will mimic this on the downwards direction too, just to be careful. Now, for me personally, as this is not my cup of tea, but this is designed around the short-term trader mindset and target audience. And note, it's important they also disclose this is not supposed to be a long-term investment instrument where rebalancing does take place and can affect the longer-term returns and not necessarily line up with the expected daily movement of doubling that. But nonetheless, it's still a very interesting move to see with this much interest in Palantir as a stock and putting this together as a trading product. Then we get a couple interesting articles too on Breaking Defense's website that have to do with Palantir. First is the Vias contract opening competition around the night vision aspects, and this is a very big project that Microsoft has been a major player on, but as expected, it is getting a bit of a closer look from the Army Rangers, and they are running it through the ringer. So Palantir is actually mentioned here specifically by name as one of the players that is vying for this business, even if it's still mainly on the software side of things. So we'll continue to monitor if any progress, but we do know Palantir has playing a heavy role in their mixed reality headsets and that software there, so maybe they can pick up some more business. Then we get some big comments also from a vice admiral on the Maven project that they're expecting a tenfold expansion of the user base utilizing Maven. Now, they framed it more as an issue to overcome, especially when dealing with resource constraints, but at least from a Palantir investor's ears, it sounds like there's an undying demand for utilizing Maven, specifically when it comes to motion video and all that data that comes with it. And there's plenty of review needed too. With warfare today increasingly taking place hand in hand with software, no doubt it seems like this is bullish information for Palantir, showcasing the increasing importance of vendors like them for the United States Armed Forces. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is playing a factor later on in negotiations when they get around to continuing their services around the Maven project and extending their contract. Then we get an interesting CNBC interview with L3Harris's CEO. And note, they are one of the subcontractors working alongside Palantir for the Titan project that they recently won and was a very big, well-known thing. And essentially, his words were that they thought Palantir was their best chance of winning. Now, as a software prime on a traditionally hardware-focused project like Titan, you can argue this was a risk, but it seems Palantir has built up a reputation, at least with their ability to deliver value and win contracts, that L3Harris took a chance with them, and it actually worked out very nicely. So it's always encouraging for me to see these kinds of comments, especially from the leadership of companies working alongside Palantir here and getting an inside look for us. It shows their ability not only to go and win because they're good, but also to find a way to leverage their partnerships for their strengths and deliver what is best for the customers and actually winning in the end. And these are very important, large customers with fat pockets, such as the US government. Then we get a media snub, though, actually for Palantir this week, where Time Magazine did not include Alex Karp this round for the top 100 AI people. The really interesting part here is that he made it to the list last year, and to my knowledge, nothing seems to have gone downhill or into the gutter, but rather I think the importance and prominence of Palantir and Karp has actually gone up since last time. But to each his own, I guess, and technically this is to everyone's opinion, and obviously Palantir will continue to do what they do best and deliver AI that enterprises can use today, but it definitely is a head scratcher on why he wasn't on the list this round. And now the biggest news of this week, SNP Inclusion. Palantir has done it, and some would say finally, while others may think, oh my god, that was pretty quick. Regardless, the decision to add Palantir to the index has gone official, and this was just the announcement, so next Monday they technically aren't part of the index, but for all who are thinking about the news and how to be priced in, essentially the catalyst has already happened. But most importantly, when thinking about the index products and reflecting the index accurately, Palantir will officially be part of it Monday, September 23. The announcement itself release notes that Palantir and Dell and Erie Indemnity will be added while they remove American Airlines, Etsy, and Bio-Rad Laboratories. So that's the close of this chapter for the S&P eligibility that we've been hearing about every single quarter that I feel like I've covered, and it's kind of nice to get a conclusion here to that pretty quickly. Now, I think what most people are curious about is, what does this even mean? Well, as a business, they can boast about it and say they're part of the top 500 publicly traded companies for the United States, and that's not something small to talk about. And really, it means a lot, at least for a lot of potential customers and investors. For customers first, it signifies a company that is recognized as having a stable enough business that they would be around and have built a reputation to represent a top company in the industries that we believe showcases America's best. And if you want to work with someone that's got a good reputation, well, by default, you can make some assumption about them being in the S&P. And I'm not saying it's an end-all be-all, of course, and, it's a byproduct of them actually doing well already, but it definitely is another medal to show off and to point to when you're comparing yourself to your competitors trying to win business. Now, on the investor side, no doubt too, with the index products offerings, they need to buy and hold some of Palantir regardless now. But even without that, the S&P 500 inclusion means that some will finally take a closer look at Palantir now because it gets through one of their filters. Or for certain products, they are allowed to allocate a higher percentage towards Palantir's exposure. Regardless, I think this risk-off event for current shareholders is important, confirming our thoughts and beliefs about the company, while also vindication for some doubters thinking they were an imposter before. But also, it showcases how Palantir represents the importance of their role in today's business landscape, and no doubt that goes alongside the narrative of artificial intelligence, where Palantir is no doubt a player that is going to affect the market today and into the future. And this is commercially as well as the government, where Palantir's already proven they can deliver something that makes AI usable today. So I think this will go down in history for Palantir as a significant moment, vindicating them as a player to be dealt with, and no doubt is only the beginning for them to continue delivering and hopefully even leverage to their benefit, because they've got the accolades and customers and reputations. So why not double down and bring it more business from it? Now, stock price wise, too, I think a lot of folks are still wondering what this means, and we still have Monday open for market hours to see what actually will happen since the initial euphoria we witnessed for Friday after hours. There's no guarantee this means Monday will open that high or just go down or go even higher, but regardless, Palantir will still be added to the index. I think what most folks need to understand is that this is a byproduct of what they've already proven. They have a profitable and scalable business in the upcoming AI wave that others still seem to be figuring out, while they've already got their offering down pat and ready to be consumed by the market. Their financials still technically need to reflect that growth and execution of the market expects, but no doubt it seems they've got a strong chance based on how the sentiment is around Palantir. So yes, nothing is guaranteed on their stock and their valuation being priced in for execution and growth, but it doesn't mean that their inclusion is nothing to sneeze at. So super exciting week. Let me know your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next video.